to actually take office? Well, let's speak to Jonny Ball. Jonny lives in Wellingborough, where Reg is today. He's a former Conservative Party agent as well. Good morning to you, Jonny.
Morning, Tim. And I obviously studied politics as well.
Yes.
So for Reggie, don't feel alone there, mate.
Yes, you obviously did. So we think, it seems highly plausible that the next leader of the Conservative Party, and indeed the country, will be Liz Truss. Who did you want to be the next leader?
Well, I've got no skin in the game, as I've said before, because I'm no longer a Conservative Party member. But it's pretty obvious back to polling by Conservative Home, the Conservative members website blog, back in 30th of November 2021, I think it was. They polled Liz Truss as number one, 82% satisfaction rating, with poor old Rishi down in ninth place. I mean, perfectly honest, I wouldn't have chosen either if I was still a member. The people that I was really kind of excited by were Tom Tugendhat, Penny Mordaunt, and Kemi Badenoch was quite interesting too. But I think really, if they wanted, they had a missed opportunity as a rebrand as a result of the crisis in trust that our politics has faced in recent times. But I think the person that the membership really wanted all along was Ben Wallace. And Ben Wallace polled considerably higher consistently on Conservative Home as number one in terms of satisfaction ratings around what they thought about the cabinet. But unfortunately, as we know, Ben didn't put his hat into the ring. But I think if it had been the binary choice between someone new, someone fresh, Ben Wallace would have absolutely walked it.
There's a lot of talk about the way that we get our next Conservative leader, and of course, in this case, our next Prime Minister. And it's, the Conservative members play a huge part in this. It's down to them. About 180,000, we think. It's, the figures aren't completely clear. I understand that most of those are white people. Most of those are men. Most of those, or at least half of those, are over 65, and most live in the south of England. Is that democracy in action, or really should whoever becomes Prime Minister give the country, give the people of Northamptonshire a general election to make sure that this is really what they want?
Well, let's look. If it had been the other side, of course, then it would be down to the trade union membership as well, dictating who ultimately leads their political party. So whether you look at Labour or Conservative, there's some similarities there. But that's not really how our system works. We don't vote for a presidential style of leadership. I think there perhaps is a debate to be had around the British Bill of Rights and how we choose our prime ministers. But ultimately, you do choose a party based on its manifesto offering. Okay, I get it. Geeks like me love thumbing through manifestos. The ordinary, normal people don't. But this current Conservative Party was voted on the basis of the 2019 manifesto. So perhaps it is now time to have a bit of a chat. We've been long promised the British Bill of Rights, and perhaps in the mix would be what happens when a prime minister resigns. So I think with politics, we've got to constantly evolve and progress, and perhaps now's the time to have that conversation.
Liz Truss was on the BBC this weekend speaking to Laura Kuenssberg on her new programme, and the cost of living crisis, of course, is, as it should be, the front and centre of everybody's agenda right now. People in Northamptonshire struggling very badly. And they say to me things like, I'm struggling, and I feel as though people at the top, but particularly people in big business, in finance, in the energy companies, they are still making huge amounts of money. Liz Truss has said this weekend that she feels as though giving tax breaks to people who are already earning huge amounts of money is a fair thing to do. Do you think she understands how bad people are struggling? Is she the right person to take action on the cost of living crisis with that kind of attitude towards lots of rich people and the money they enjoy currently?
Well, like you, I watched that interview too, and I work extensively within the veterans community. So naturally, things around the armed forces are of particular interest to me, and defence. I also have my own small business as well. So this is real for all of us here in Wellingborough, in Northamptonshire. This really matters. But I think you picked it up straight away. You used the word crisis. And that was a word that Laura Kuenssberg posed towards Liz Truss. And she typically, in a political style answer, refused to acknowledge that we are in a crisis. I think the words that she used was challenge, which I think kind of dumbed down the situation we're facing. We need a leader to get real with what we are facing, and that is crisis. And we are in a crisis, but we've been in crisis before, and that's where she tried to pivot her answer. But I think words matter, and that's one of the areas that Liz Truss has been picked up on in terms of her words. She does make missteps, and she kind of shrugged it off of, Liz being Liz. I'm not the most polished person. Well, quite frankly, that's not good enough. Whether you're a CEO of a company or a leader of a political party or a country, these kind of people operating at that level can get assistance and can get coaching. So I don't really accept that answer that it's Liz being Liz. I do think that she will understand this. She is a constituency MP as well first, so she will have the mailbag that I faced in my previous political careers. She'll also have a very vocal membership. Now, these are the same people that back in 2007, when I first worked for the Conservative Party, who were very vocal about issues, particularly around the rebrand of the party when Cameron came in and changed the logo. They were very vocal about Brexit too. So these MPs do have their membership, they have the constituents. So I don't necessarily agree when people say that they're out of touch, because they're facing these people face to face in their mailbag every single day of the week. But for me, the biggest thing about that interview yesterday, Tim, was the fact that she wasn't able to acknowledge that we are in a crisis, and a crisis we are in. But we've been in them before. We just need some really good leadership, perhaps not strong and stable, but some good leadership to get us out of this one.
Very interesting. Well, I'll put that issue to MP Andrea Leadsom later on in the programme about the nature of the crisis that we are in. Jonny Ball, thank you for being on the programme. Jonny Ball lives in Wellingborough. He's a former Conservative Party agent there, talking about what we think will happen at midday, or just after midday sometime, Liz Truss being announced as Conservative leader. Not confirmed yet, but it seems plausible.